My name is Caden. Today I'm going to change the oil pressure sending unit on my 1990 Pontiac Bonneville, and this is pretty much the same for any single 3800 engine. It just might be a slightly different sending unit and a slightly different plug depending on what year your car is. So of course mine's 1990, so mine is the LN3 3800, and the oil sending unit is that cylinder, that thing right there. You can see plain as day. There's a plug on top of it, and then it just unscrews from the oil filter housing there. And but what I'm going to do to make it easier, since you see this belt's kind of in the way, is where this wrench would need to kind of go. I'm just going to loosen the belt a little bit, and all that is a 18 millimeter on this. Pull it to the left, you know, and then you can slide the belt off the pulleys. And I'm not sure what size wrench that is, but I usually just use a crescent wrench because they're usually not on that tight. But you could also get a oil sending unit socket, which I don't really find necessary as much unless it's really on there or on some sort of modern car where it has to be done that way. But anyway, I'm just going to unscrew it with the crescent wrench here after I loosen the belt, and I'll pause and show you what that looks like. Alright, so I have removed the belt. I just kind of tossed it to the side. If you don't know how to put it back together, there's your little guide right there, but I can do it by memory by now. And then in the meantime, I changed out my lower hose that was leaking, so I'll have to remember to fill that guy back up. But once it's loose, you can just unscrew it the rest of the way. And it's pretty oily sometimes. And there it is. Just like that. And your new part may look slightly different than the old part, and that is okay as long as these plugs here, let me get some light on it. As long as these plugs here are the same, you want to make sure you get the same amount of pins. In my case, it's a 4-pin for this GM. And the new one I got is also a 4-pin. And the threads should be the same size, and then it should just screw right in. And what I do is I put some it's called Teflon tape, or just thread sealer tape. You wrap it around that, and then you screw it in and snap it in. And one side, of course, has a locking tab that goes onto this piece here, and you'll just screw it in, plug it in, and you'll be good to go. The reason I'm changing this is because my oil pressure gauge isn't reading right. It's reading too low. And I know the engine does not have low oil pressure, because with a mechanical gauge it checked out at 72 psi on a cold start, and even on a cold start mine doesn't even go up to the 60 mark. And you may notice this with yours as well, but when you come to a stop, or if you're at real low idle, and I'll just show you here real quick on the gauge in the car. Because when when you're idling, your oil pressure gauge is supposed to be just right in the middle. You're supposed to be at about 60 on the highway. Mine doesn't even go up to that 60 mark anymore. And a lot of times it will dip down to that hash mark right there when I'm just at low idle, or like when I have it in drive and I'm just pressing on the brake. It will read very low, and I think that's because the spring inside of that sending unit, when it gets hot, it just gets weak and it doesn't open up all the way, or it's getting a lack of voltage or something. Either way, it's like a $35 switch. It's really not a big deal. I just kind of want this to work right again, like everything else does in here. So I'll screw that in and show you what it looks like when it's done. So I have everything put back together. If you can see it down there, you just screw it in, plug it back in, put your belt on that you took off, and your low radiator hose if you were changing that out. If you don't want to change that out, there's a clamp down there, and one down there. So, bam, 2 in 1 right there. But anyway, hope this helps out somewhat of just pointing it out and actually how easy it is to do this job. So anyway, hope this helps. I'll see you guys in another video.